This is the TRU Leader Podcast. Today we have an insightful conversation with Dr. Chris Fuzie about his new book on leadership and followership, a both-and tension that every leader must leverage. Don't miss it.
Welcome to the TRU Leader Podcast. I'm Dr. Tracy Christofferson.
And I'm Michelle Trosett.
We are life and business besties, leadership coaches and mentors, and polarity intelligence experts. We're the authors of Polarity Intelligence, The Missing Logic in Leadership, and co-founders of Missing Logic.
We are here to help high-achieving leaders break through leadership norms that cause them suffering at work and home. If you're looking to elevate your leadership, increasing your productivity, effectiveness, and impact, and manage your health and well-being, spend quality time with those you love, and live your best life, then you are in the right place.
Our goal in this podcast is to equip you with new ways of thinking and practical and tactical strategies for succeeding at work and thriving in life. Think of this podcast as your weekly dose of personal and professional development so you can reach your full leadership potential, create a life you love, and be what we are calling a thriving, resilient, and unstoppable or true leader.
If you are ready to learn and laugh a little, let's get started.
Welcome to the TRU Leader Podcast. I'm Tracy.
And I'm Michelle.
Yay.
Yay.
Who else would be here?
We're leading and following and leading today.
We are?
Yes.
We are. We're always doing that. What do you mean
always,
today?
every day. Every day.
Every day. We're just talking about it today.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, it was a fun conversation with our guest.
Yes, we interviewed Dr. Chris Fuzie, and it was a fascinating conversation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you know what? I really appreciate people that care about leadership as much as you and I do.
Yeah. Yeah, it is kind of fun to connect with others and somebody who's trying to bring things in a different way, right?
Absolutely.
Like we need new ways of looking at things. We need new ways of thinking about things. So yeah, it's kind of a kindred spirit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like just trying to bring a whole different view. It's like, you know, how you have the picture of the elephant and you have all the, you know, I think it's like the blind mice around the elephant or whatever.
Yes,
right? And they all feel something different or they all have a different perception of things.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of feel like that's what these days are like. I feel like a lot of people are coming out with like, well, wait, here's a section of this that we haven't maybe looked at this way. And I think that's always awesome. Helps us grow and evolve in our perceptions.
Yeah, it's a great metaphor. And we have definitely some new way of thinking today in this interview. So let me tell you a little bit about our guest, Dr. Chris Fuzie, and then we will listen to the interview. He is the owner, CEO, and senior consultant at CMF Leadership Consulting, providing expertise in leadership development and executive coaching for organizations of all sizes, while acting as the business and HR manager for an elected district attorney's office in California. With over 18 years of experience in training, leadership, and followership, Chris has worked with private, public, and military leaders globally, delivering behavior-based leadership practices and speaking at major leadership conferences. He holds a Doctor of Education in Organizational Leadership from Brandman University, along with a Master of Arts and Bachelor of Arts in Organizational Leadership. He's an accomplished author and has written several books, and today his latest book, Liminal Space, Reshaping Leadership and Followership, is the topic of our conversation. So without further ado, here is our interview with Chris. Well, welcome, Chris. Welcome to the TRU Leader Podcast. We're excited to have you as a guest today.
Well, good morning. It's good to be here.
Yeah, it's great to see you on this beautiful, bright morning.
Yes.
Yes.
Earlier for you than us.
Early for you.
Early.
I know. I feel the
morning.
pain. Yeah, I feel the pain. I know what it's like to have to do the early thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
So as our listeners are picking up, we're in different time zones, and Chris, he accepted a reschedule, and so we got him up early, and here we are.
Yeah, I'm ready to go.
Ready to go. Well, we are so looking forward to talking to you about your new book and just learning more about you and the work that you do. And so I'm going to kick us off with the first question.
Okay.
And you have spent decades in leadership roles in law enforcement. And can you tell our listeners a little bit about your journey into leadership?
So it started with bad leaders. That's usually how a lot of this starts. I mean,
Yeah.
you think about it. I worked as a patrol officer for about 18 years, and I was just out running and gunning, having fun. Doing the police thing, and I dealt with a few, let's say, not so great supervisors and leaders, and I just wanted to be different. So I told myself, as if I ever get in that role, I'm going to make sure that I do it right. Right. So then, about 18 years into this job, I applied for being a sergeant. Now I'm a supervisor. Now I'm a leader. But at the same time, I also went back to college and decided, let's try something other than law enforcement for a degree. And I got into organizational leadership. And that's where I started really seeing how this leadership stuff works. And as I progressed through the police department, I was also getting my bachelor's degree and master's degree in organizational leadership. So that's kind of what got me started. And then, progressing up through the police department positionally, then I got to test out some of these theories on what was going on in the police department world. And really, and as a matter of fact, one of the incidents is in the book. The names have been changed to protect the guilty and all that kind of stuff, but it's the way it happened is in the book. It's one of the examples in chapter 5 that she gives, and it's kind of cool because as I got into that, I was also asked to teach some of the leadership stuff, and I started teaching with International Association of Chiefs of Police, and then I was doing that throughout the country. I was one of their national instructors throughout the country teaching, and that kind of just rolled over into when I say graduated from the police department. When I retired from the police department, I kept working teaching leadership as a job. And then I went back for a doctorate degree in the same thing, in organizational leadership, plus leading my own company. And then I started, working at different places, getting hired at different places. We did a lot of work for colleges and police and sheriff's departments, of course. And I kept working for IACP for a little bit. And then this went into my own stuff, my own business. Yeah. And here I am.
Wow.
Here you are. Here you are. All right.
Yeah. Well, that's a great story, and something that Tracy and I hear often is people do get promoted. They're really good at what they do in their roles, no matter what their profession. Technically, they're good. They're the go-to people when you need something, and then they get promoted into leadership roles, but then they don't do what you did. They really struggle in those roles, and the people below them do as well.
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah, and that's one of the things. It's a kind of a pet peeve of mine is that we promote people, especially in government. We tend to promote people and say, you are, I'm going to use widget maker because that's an easy one for me. You are the best widget maker. You make all the best widgets. You don't have any problems. You don't have this. You don't have. Well, the problem is that they're doing their task. And when you change and then you promote them, okay, you're going to be the supervisor. And now you're the supervising widget maker. Yay! Except your job has just changed from being the widget maker to a people person. If you don't know anything about people, you don't know how to deal with people, you don't know what they're like, you don't know anything about them or what motivates them, how to become cohesive, how to get a group together. You don't know any of that, you're going to fail. And so that's why that's one of my pet peeves, because we do that all the time in law enforcement and government. We say, you're the best. We want you to be the supervisor, and you fail because you don't know about people. And and the task is now not widget making. The task is now getting other people to make the widgets, which is completely different.
Yeah.
And we don't prepare them, right? Like, so we put them
Correct.
in the position, and then it's almost like we set them up to fail right from day number one, because we don't have the development processes in place to really cultivate leadership in those people that we are promoting. And so then, to Michelle's point, oftentimes if they don't have that opportunity, then they fail, right? Because they don't even know which way to go or what to do, right? So let's talk about your book, because that's an exciting thing. Congratulations.
Yes.
Oh, thank you very much. I am stoked about this thing.
Yeah. So the title of your book is Liminal Space, Reshaping Leadership and Followership. And it's a great book, and I think it's a timely book. So tell our listeners a little bit about the misconceptions around leading and following and the relationship between the two that your book really brings out and highlights.
Okay. So the first misconception is that leadership and followership are opposites. And I do this thing with people every, when I do classes and trainings and stuff. I say, okay, I'm going to give you a word. You tell me the opposite. And I go fast, slow, up, down, in, out. And then I throw in leader. And of course, some people, especially law enforcement, they expect you to mess with them, so they won't say anything. But most people will say follower as the opposite of leader. That's the way we've been conditioned. That's the current mental schema that we have of leadership and followership, and it's not the case. And so, actually, in the book, I do this thing where the character chats with Chat GPT and asks the question, what's the opposite? And, they go through this conversation, and Chat GPT ends up saying, no, they're actually, they work together. They're collaborative. They're going towards the same goals. They have all the same. And really, that's what's happening. And that's the big misconception, is that leaders and followers are opposites, and they're really not. They're all going in the same direction. They're trying to get the same things. They're trying to achieve the same goals. So that's the first one that happens. And then after that, you have this thing about leaders and followers as being a separate action, separate behaviors. So, but most of us end up leading and following at the same time. Like currently, I work with the district attorney's office here in California, and I have to. And I'm leading 163 other people, but I have to tailor my leadership towards what the district attorney wants. It's an elected position, so this is an important role, and so I have to follow what the district attorney and the law and the policies and all that stuff say. But then I have to lead my people. I can't just say, we're not going to file any things today. We're not going to do this. I can't do that. So I have to lead as a good follower. And so that's one of the other misconceptions, is that we lead and follow separately, and really we don't. We're doing the same behavior. And so since it's about the behavior, since the behavior is most important, the role ends up taking a back seat to the behavior. So, but yet we don't focus on the behaviors. We still tend to focus on the roles. So that's a big misconception there. And those are the two main ones. And so I call those kind of people that lead and follow simultaneously, I call them liminal leaders. I mean, I tried with liminal leader / follower, but that just gets too cumbersome. Again, I'm simple kind of guy. Let's just keep it simple,
Yeah.
Well,
I love that. And we talk about this in terms of polarity. So what I loved about it is, right, these are two elements, perspectives, points of view, right? They're values that we hold dearly. And like you said, they appear to be opposite. but they have an interdependent relationship, and you have to
Right.
have both. And I loved how you brought that out. You really have to have both. And I like what you just said too about depending on the context, you will be doing both, right? In some
Correct.
instances you're leading, some instances you're following, sometimes you're doing that, in different ways in the same situation. And so they really, and you have to have them both. And I loved how you talked about too, they're equally important.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that when you brought up the difference in the misconceptions, it's like one is dazzling and exciting and the other is kind of blah, right? Like the follower doesn't have the dazzle that the leader has.
Right.
But when you look at them as both equally important, they both are dazzling. They both are equally important. They both help get to a purpose that we really can't get to without.
Right.
Right?
Right. Well, also, I mean, you think about the size of an organization also, right? So if there's an organization that has one or two people in it, then they're kind of, the leader's going to have to step in and, clean the garbage cans and do all that stuff also.
Right.
But the bigger the organization gets, the less the leader is actually doing all the stuff, and it's more the followers. I mean, the county that I'm in right now is 550,000 people. The county government has about 4,000 or 5,000 employees. Those 4,000 or 5,000 employees are the ones who are serving the 550,000 people. They're the ones doing it. It's not the CEO. It's not the board of supervisors. So, I mean, they kind of set the direction, but it's the followers who are making everything work.
Yeah.
And so, this people, the boss or they get the reward, they get the accolades or whatever, but it's really the followers who are doing this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But if I could, I'd give you an example out of my law enforcement days. So I was in charge of our motor squad, and so I had my own motorcycle. Looked incredibly cool on the motorcycle. Stared at myself in the mirrors and in the windows and stuff as we went by. But I was supposed to lead the 4th of July parade, and so we're leading the 4th of July parade. I'm going to be out front, and all my guys get together. And I've never done this before. Most of them have, and so it was like, okay, all I have to do is drive straight. But driving a 700-pound motorcycle 1 to 2 miles an hour for about 2 miles, that's stressful. That's a lot. I mean, you got to stay right in the middle. You got to keep it balanced. You got, and keep going slow. But behind me, all of the guys were doing these turns and swerves and figure eights and doing all this cool stuff, and the motorcycles going back and forth on the street. It was. And I have a picture of a picture that someone took of me, but in the background you see the crowd is watching all of the people behind me, the followers. And I use that as an example because when we got done, everybody came out. You guys were so great. Your squad was fantastic. You guys, great job. All I did was not drop the bike. And that's what they told me. They said, Chris, whatever you do, my guys say, Chris, whatever you do, we know you're leading the parade. Whatever you do, don't drop the bike. You make us all look stupid.
That's right.
It's like,
well, that's why you were stressed.
Exactly. Right. So that's where the pressure came from. Is I didn't want to make my people look stupid because I dropped the bike.
Right.
So that's that kind of thing. The size also matters because your followers are the ones who are actually making the organization run.
Absolutely. Well, we always like to say, too, everyone's a leader.
Yep.
Everyone is leading in some way. So it really goes with that concept as well. So that's a great story. I love it. Well, you mentioned you call these leaders liminal leaders, Chris. So what does a liminal leader look like and how do they behave? And then give us some examples of that as well.
So actually, because that I knew was going to come up, I actually put that in the book. And in one of the memos that Mary writes to her people, the title of the thing is, "What does liminal leader look like, and how do they behave?" So liminal leader, they have a balanced role. They adapt. These are people that they're not trying to undermine. They're trying to be helpful. They're trying to follow and lead at the same time. They have more of a collaborative mindset. These are people who are they're willing to embrace that collaboration. They're not just in it for me. With them, what's in it for me? They're more adept and adaptive at their communication style. So they know they have to speak at a level that they can speak up to certain people and they can speak down to certain people at the level. I'm not saying that in a negative, like speak down to somebody, call them a negative. I'm just saying at that level. This idea comes from education. Also, I was a DARE officer in law enforcement, and I had to teach all the way from kindergarten to 7th grade. Kindergarten, 1st, 3rd, 5th, and 7th. And each one of those has a different communication style that you have to use. And so any given day, I might be speaking to kindergartners and 1st graders. Well, then I was also teaching college at the same time. So now I'm doing this and teaching college. Well, very different communications. So you have to be able to be adept at that. You have to be able to adjust to your audience. And then shared accountability. A liminal leader is going to have shared accountability because they're actually the ones that have to do the stuff and bring it forward. They're following and leading at the same time, so they have to do both. I'm looking at the book here. Mutual respect. So they show some mutual respect because they're all. You can't say all of you have to do this and I don't. Because I have to follow also. I have to be a good follower. I have to be a good role model. Or as Kelly used the example, exemplary followership, right? You have to be an exemplary follower in order to be a good leader also. So even the top brass, even my DA, the elected official, he follows the people. And if he doesn't do what the people want, he's gone also. I mean, it's an election. So those are some of the things. They facilitate leadership also. So they're going to be the ones like you talk, leading from everywhere, which is absolutely true. You get all these liminal leaders throughout the organization, and almost any middle manager is a liminal leader. Almost any supervisor is a liminal leader. And so they are leading from their position, or leading from the middle, I know is another term, but they're leading. And so they have to understand this leadership concept and what happened. And then, they're continuously learning. And I know that I'm 64 years old and I learn something every day. And so you have to be able to be willing to do that, and have that openness for feedback. I sent a thing out to all my people yesterday. I said, hey, send me some feedback. I'm good, bad, or indifferent. I want to hear it. And so I got some good, bad, and indifferent. And so it was kind of good to get that, because now I can make an adjustment. So that's what a liminal leader looks like. They look like somebody who's leading. I hate to say it this way, leading and following at the same time. You're getting both of the different kinds of behaviors.
Yeah. Well, I think what I picked up too is it is really about behavior, right?
Correct.
And I think you really emphasize it's not about the role, it's really about the behaviors. And it's not, you have to really put the emphasis there. And the behavior is like, I think you called it the compass of the organization. And that's what really drives everything. And I think, it's not enough to know. And I think that's such in alignment with what we believe as well around just the whole concept of polarity. So it's just like you can know something, but if you're not applying it, if you're not actually putting it into action and living it, then it's not going to be effective, right? You can't just know, you got to do. And so I really appreciated that too, around how you're emphasizing behaviors. And one of the behaviors your book really emphasizes is the tessellations of behavior. So it's that honeycomb, so to speak. So
Right.
we want to learn more about that. But let me start with, can you explain what a tessellation is for
Okay,
our
so
listeners?
I have to go all the way back to high school math. So we're talking many years ago. Tessellations are shapes, are repeating shapes that can cover an entire plane or surface without any kind of space or covering each other without any kind of I don't know how to say it. Overlap. Thank you. I'm glad somebody else has words this morning because
It's okay.
it's early here.
It's a team effort.
Right.
That's all right.
So you don't have the overlap, you don't have any space, and so there's three basic shapes that do that, and that's a triangle, an equilateral triangle, a square, and a hexagon. And those, if you get the right shapes, the right sizes, then you can put those together and create beautiful shapes, all sorts of different beautiful shapes with that. But what I do is, anyway, that's what a tessellation is, and you can see tessellation in art. Your wall behind you is actually a tessellation. It's an irregular tessellation with the bricks. So that's, you see this repeating pattern, and if you look around anywhere that you go, you'll see these repeating patterns in art, in science, in nature. You'll see them all over the place, and we actually build them. Yeah, that's tile. Tile in your bathroom is a tessellation.
Yeah. So the second thing I wanted to ask before we talk about this in relationship to, implementing it in an organization is, so why is that important?
So why that's important is that we add it to behaviors. So imagine being able to create all these different types of shapes and beautiful designs and stuff, right? Every organization is different. So if you have these shapes and these behaviors that you can create an organization, looking artwork, I don't know how to say this, but it's going to create a you're going to know what those shapes are. You're going to know what that organization looks like. And I use the concept of tessellations to apply it to the behaviors. That's why we're dipping into the behavior thing now. Is that if you have behaviors associated with a shape or shapes, you can tessellate behaviors. There's a thing called a congruent tessellation, right? Congruent means that you can take the same basic shape and you can flip it or turn it or stretch it, and it still maintains the same basic shape. Well, if you think about that with behaviors, if somebody is saying something and they're doing what they're doing, and they're doing what they're saying, that's congruent. Walk the talk, right? So if somebody's walking the talk, then they're doing what they're saying they're going to do. They're being congruent, just like a math or a shape is congruent, even if you flip it and turn it and put it in a different position.
Okay.
So it's about the behaviors being congruent, and that's where I started thinking about this tessellation stuff. Is that it's the same with mathematics, is that you keep the basic same shape, but you can apply it to all sorts of different situations. So in leadership, you have a leader, a follower, and a situation or context, right? So if the leader and the follower are doing the same behaviors, then those behaviors should work in the different contexts. That's a tessellation of a behavior.
Okay.
So if I'm honest as a leader and I'm honest as a follower, does it matter what the situation is if I'm honest, right? We want that same behavior. So that's where the tessellations came in, is that, trying to equate some of this stuff to some of the other sciences, because leadership itself is its own science.
Sure.
And we don't think of it that way. And people look at me kind of sideways when I say, we have leaderology, the study of leadership. And you even have mixology, the study of how to mix drinks. So
and sometimes those go hand in hand, I think.
Right. You have all these, and I won't say that I personally tested that one, but I
did. Maybe that's a polarity too.
Right. Believe me, it was purely research.
Yes. I'm
Right.
sure it was.
Right. So, but you have all these ologies, and so leadership is its own science. And so when we talk about leadership, are we talking about it as a process? Are we talking about it as a science? What are we talking? So the process of leadership has a leader, a follower, and the situation or context. And that's where the tessellations come into play, is that it's not about whether you're acting as a leader or acting as a follower. It's more about the behavior and making sure that behavior is complete, and you can take that behavior and make a pattern with it. You can create all sorts of designs with the same thing. Well, if you can do that in art and everything else, why not do it in behaviors? And so now you know what the behavior expectation should look like. And if we know what it looks like, and we define it correctly, then we can teach it. And if we can teach it and have behavior expectation, now we can create the expectation. And if we can create the expectations, now we can evaluate those behaviors and if they're appropriate, and then make changes to it. Sorry, that was a long answer.
Well, no, that's okay. It's a bit of a complex concept, right? So I think it's very helpful. And so I think what I'm thinking of is in the leader and follower, as a leader and a follower, I don't want to say the role, the behaviors. So you'd identify specific behaviors for each. And then if those are congruent and consistent, like you said, right, then you should be able to get the same result or the same outcome, regardless of the context. That's kind of, so you put these different behaviors together, maybe a certain set of behaviors for the leader, a certain set of behaviors for the follower, that results in a specific outcome, and that outcome should be consistent no matter what kind of context you're in, if the behaviors are congruent with it. Is that correct? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's why we use the shapes.
Yeah. That makes
sense. So like a three shape, a triangle, right? You have a triangle, has three sides. That would be for like the top overarching goals, behaviors that you want in the organization. So integrity, honesty, and forward looking. Let's say those are the three behaviors at the top, right? Most organizations are set up to where they have the top part, which is strategic. Then you have the middle section, which is your tactical, and then you have the lower section, which is your operational. So triangle, square, and hexagon. And so you have 3 behaviors, 4 behaviors for the tactical, how we're going to implement things, and then 6 behaviors in the hexagon for your production. And depending on the organization, you could use all sorts of different behaviors for that. But if you identify those 3 at the top, those 4 in the middle, or those 6 at the bottom, that's what you need. That's easy to remember. I know I need to be ethical, and I need to be this. I know those 4 things that I need to do. 4 behaviors or 6 behaviors is much easier to remember than a vision, mission, values statement with goals, and depending on how long those are.
Yeah. I think it would be really interesting to look at the different behaviors and see how many of those might represent polarities.
Yeah.
So when you think about, if you have respect, as one of the behaviors, then it would not just be conditional respect. It would have to be conditional respect and unconditional respect, right? And
Right.
that, like, if you have to be in your communication, if you want to be diplomatic, but you also have to be able to be candid. So it would just be interesting to see, as you think about those different ones, how many of them represent polarities and making sure that the individuals are applying both.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, awesome. That's great.
Yeah.
That's really exciting.
Yeah.
So, and it gives you something to look at. I mean, you can put those 3 behaviors on a little triangle sticking out. I did it here at the district attorney's office with our clerical folks, that they all have a hexagon. The supervisors have a hexagon, and they've all agreed to what those behaviors are. And they said, this is what we're going to hold each other to. We're going to hold ourselves and then each other to, and this is going to help us make us run better. And it has worked. It's been kind of fun to watch.
That's neat.
That's great. It's just a different way. It's really a different way to really look at the characteristics and the behaviors that are needed in what Tracy and I would call a healthy work culture that you're really working toward achieve.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
And it does set up your culture, because your culture is your behaviors anyway. Whether they're functional or dysfunctional is going to determine your culture. And that's where, if we say these are the behaviors we want, we're actually saying this is the culture we're expecting.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's really
fascinating.
Cool. Well, it's just a whole different way. I appreciate
I do too.
The variation of the way to look at it and to make it tangible for people. With the shapes and and something that they can keep in front of them. It's really important. Like you said, you can write a mission statement, vision statement, and people are like, yeah, I get it, but they can't repeat it to you, most of the time. Right. So I think that's really good for you.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Well, thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why the title is the liminal space. So you talk about the liminal leadership, and then reshaping leadership and followership is because you're actually using the shapes. So
yeah,
that's really great. I love how that fits.
You're out there shaping it up.
Yeah,
shaking it up and shaping it up. I love it.
Right.
Well, Chris, we're at the time of our interview where we're ready to move into our mystery questions.
Uh-oh.
Oh, yeah.
Here it comes.
Yeah, here. Hang on to your seat. No,
okay.
It'll be fun. And the reason we ask these is we really want our listeners to get to know the real you, the true you, on a more personal level. So I'm going to ask the first one, and then Tracy's going to ask the second one.
Okay.
So our first mystery question is, if you could switch your life with any fictional character for a day, who would it be and why?
Any fictional character for a day?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's a hard one, but what first comes to my mind is Roadrunner. So, I mean,
there you go.
Beep, beep.
Even the song is in my head, runs down the road all day,
Yeah. Love it.
He just lives his life, and other stuff happens around him, and that's kind of how I feel is what's happened. Yeah.
That's a great answer. Love it. Of course, I think we're all of the same generation. Watch the same cartoons as kids, right? That's probably we relate to that. At least you're not Coyote.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to be him for a day.
Yeah. No.
Good pick.
Right.
Okay, question number 2. See, that wasn't hard.
Nah, that was
it's easy. All right, here comes question number 2. So, what's the craziest thing that you have on your bucket list?
Well, most of the crazy stuff I've already done.
Well, good for you.
Yeah, I mean. I have to be age appropriate now, just because the craziest thing I would still like to go hiking in Alaska, but I know that's probably So yeah, it's probably. I don't know that I would feel safe with that anymore, but it's still there.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Yeah, it's
Good.
still there, but
Good.
yeah, that's not that crazy. I mean, I've already done zip line. I will never jump out of an airplane. Um, well, by choice, I should say.
I was
Um,
going to say, never say never, my friend. You
right.
may not have a choice.
Right. But people say that kind of stuff, and I mean,
Yeah.
I've already done almost everything else, and really, I think about all the things. Even had dinner inside the Eiffel Tower. I mean, it's like, who
Oh,
does that?
yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
it's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's
But yeah,
great.
I'd have to say hiking, backpacking in Alaska.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Great.
I think that's adventurous,
I do
man.
too.
They have big animals up there.
Yes.
Right? And it's not always an easy hike, to your point,
No.
right? So we
Yeah.
always have to
Right.
be mindful of broken bones, falls.
Right.
As you get older, things get a
Yeah,
little
we
more
don't-
strenuous.
Right.
We break
don't think
easier.
about. Yeah, to some of those animals, we're just food. We're just big sacks of meat.
That's right.
It is the truth. I'm not kidding
Right.
you. It is the truth. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, it's just been really wonderful to talk with you today. I really do appreciate the new lens in which you're bringing this polarity to light of leadership and followership, and just the way that you're working, helping people to see that relationship differently and making it, very concrete and expanding, thinking about that. I just really like that. It's really good.
Yeah, and I think what I really appreciate too is just how we started our whole conversation, that leadership is a very, very important role. Our world needs good leaders now more than ever. And I like how you just differentiate the fact that it's not about a role, it's about who you are as a person and your being in that leadership role. So it's a really important message.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Anything else you'd like to share with our listeners
No,
before we close?
I appreciate having the chance to talk about the book. To me, it's just a natural progression with leadership. I mean, we've kind of gotten to the point where leadership is ubiquitous, but followership isn't, and so now we have to look at the other side. And so I think it's just a natural progression in the leadership followership kind of continuum. And so I really appreciate you letting me be here and talk about it and talk about the book and putting up with my explanation of tessellations. So,
All right. That's
yeah.
okay. Yeah, it's great.
That's great.
How can listeners get a hold of you, and where can they get your book?
Well, the book is on Amazon, and so, or you can go to my website at www.cmfleadership.com, and the book is on there. You just click on it; it'll take you to Amazon. Right now, we have the special going with Kindle. It was 99 cents on Kindle. 1995 or 1999 for the hard or the paperback book. But yeah, you could do that. Either one of those will get you there.
Okay, that's wonderful.
Great.
Well, thanks so much for being here with us today, Chris.
Well,
It's
thank
been a
you.
great conversation. And for our listeners, thank you for tuning in. We hope that you found this really to be a valuable conversation to listen into as well. And if you did, please share it. Share it with your colleagues or others that you think may be interested in Chris's book and would like to hear the conversation. And make sure that you leave a review, because we always love to, get your feedback on the different episodes, and especially this one. It'd be really helpful, I'm sure, for Chris as well, to kind of see what the response is. And subscribe so you don't miss any of these incredible episodes and guests that we have. And you can subscribe on your favorite podcast channel, or also subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you prefer video, we're there. And you can see us.
You can see our brick wall.
See Chris as well. Yeah. So until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, and we will be back with you soon. Are you tired of the relentless hustle, sacrificing your personal life or professional success, only to end up feeling burnt out and unfulfilled? It's time to rewrite your leadership narrative with our Thriving, Resilient, Unstoppable, or TRU Leader Mentorship Program. Join us in this digital, self-paced program and discover why some leaders excel in their careers while living a thriving, fulfilling life, and others struggle, work hard, and never have the impact they long to have in their professional life and lose what matters in their personal life along the way. Our program offers individual and group mentoring and provides you with the proven process to become a true leader. Navigate the post-pandemic work environment and culture shifts with confidence and lead through uncertainty as a highly regarded leader by your peers and staff. With our guidance, process, and tools, you'll learn not only to excel in your professional life, but also cultivate healthy relationships, optimize your health and well-being, and experience joy in your personal life. Don't settle for just surviving when you can excel in your career and thrive in your personal life. Join our program today and become the leader you were meant to be. Click the link in the show notes and schedule a discovery call to learn more.